Dr. Ross's visit to our church, Grace Church St. Louis, I came up with a question about the genealogies of Genesis compared to Dr. Ross's dating of the earth. And I researched this video. There were some questions also in the live stream by other people about the same subject. I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Genesis 5 and Genesis 11, you get a genealogy, and a lot of people think it's mentioning every name that took place. But if you just count up the names, there's 10 in each list. And it's highly unlikely you would get an identical 10 in each list. But to me, the strongest evidence that that's a selective, not an exhaustively complete genealogy, is you look at Genesis 2, the events there clearly happened during the last ice age, which means you're talking a lot of gaps in the genealogy. And why must it be during the last ice age? The text tells us 4 named rivers. And notice how carefully Genesis 2 talks about those rivers. It gives you the name of the rivers, tells you where they flow from, what the region was like where it was flowing from, and then that these 4 rivers come together in the Garden of Eden. 2 of those rivers still flow today. 2 have stopped flowing. The 2 that flow are flowing because they got meltwater left over from ice from the last ice age. The other 2, the ice from the last ice age has long ago melted away, so they're dry riverbeds. They come together in a place that's now 200 feet below sea level, basically somewhere in the middle of the Persian Gulf. But during the last ice age, it was 80 feet to 120 feet above sea level. It was dry ground. But that's where the 4 rivers come together. So the fact that Genesis 2 is so explicit about these 4 rivers and they're coming together in Eden tells me Adam and Eve lived sometime during the last ice age. Also explains why we see so much evidence for the first sign of humanity in the Persian Gulf area and also in East Africa. Because during the last ice age, there were 3 times when it was an easy migration route from the Persian Gulf into East Africa, because there was a land bridge joining Africa to Arabia. So there's got to be gaps in the genealogies. And maybe what's happening there is it's mentioning the names of the people who died a natural death. Because you've seen this in my book, Navigating Genesis. At least 95% of the pre-flood people had their lives terminated by being murdered by their fellow man. Murder was totally out of control. And therefore, maybe we're getting a list of the ones that didn't get murdered.